Read the 11th Amendment. The 11th Amendment, and I'm paraphrasing here. The 11th Amendment says that every American has a right to sue their own state. They specifically omitted and excluded they barred, okay? They said that there's a lot of things they can't sue. You got Germany, the citizens of Germany and Japan and Russia and China. None of those people, none of those state governments, none of those citizens can use the federal courts to sue a state in America to sue a citizen. That makes sense, right? America's for Americans. The foreigners, everybody overseas, they don't get the benefits of America. Okay, fine, Americans for America. But then they take it a step farther, and they say that Americans can't sue other states. But that's all they say. They just say Americans, you can sue your own state, but you can't sue the other states. And they uphold this decision in the 1821 Cohens decision. So I love this case. This gets the 11th Amendment, the correct interpretation of the scope and power of the 11th Amendment. Absolutely right. Absolutely perfect. The Hans decision, Alden decision, the Allen decision, 2020, Allen decision, 1999, Alden decision, and, Plessy versus Ferguson, Dred Scott decision. These are terrible decisions, awful decisions. But the 1821 Cohens decision is a good Supreme Court case decision because it correctly interprets the 11th Amendment as, strictly constructed, as it stands, what it says. They look at the words of the 11th Amendment and they interpret it, the words, as it stands. So a U.S. citizen can sue, a citizen of Colorado can sue the state of Colorado, can sue Jared Polis in federal court. So this is notable. This is notable for the court's assertion that SCOTUS has jurisdiction over state Supreme Court decisions over criminal law matters when the defendant claims that their constitutional rights have been violated. This is P.J. Cohen and M.J. Cohen. So these are brothers, right? Congress passed a law establishing a national lottery to raise money for the District of Columbia. This is going to be run by a city government. D.C. is ran by a city government. Virginia had created its own state lotteries, and Virginia had created its own state lotteries and passed a law prohibiting the sale of out-of-state lottery tickets. So the Cohens, they own the company. They own this lottery company. They had a Norfolk branch, Cohen's Lottery and Exchange Office of Baltimore. Cohen ran lottery operations in New York, Philadelphia, Charleston, Norfolk, and they ran a nationwide lottery system through the mail service. But June 1st, 1820, both Philip and Mendez Cohen, they're brothers, right? They're Cohen, but they're the Cohens brothers. They were charged with selling tickets for the National Lottery in Virginia. Now, the decision is that all cases in America fall under federal jurisdiction. The Constitution covers every single thing that happens in America. And so they said it's okay for the Cohens to have sued the state of Virginia. They live in Virginia. They could sue the state of Virginia. That is totally fine and dandy. But they're going to rule against the Cohens. They're going to uphold the conviction because the law specifically said that you could sell lottery tickets in D.C. You can't sell lottery tickets in every, state in the union. You could sell it in just D.C. So they didn't actually listen to the federal statute to the T because Congress only permitted the sale of national lottery tickets in D.C., not in the state of Virginia. So this is an amazing decision because they're going to convict the Cohens. They're going to uphold the conviction of the Cohens brothers by the state of Virginia, but they're going to say that a citizen can sue their own state, and that's totally fine and dandy and proper and right and correct. So the Hans decision is going to be the worst decision ever, but the 1821 decision is fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about this Hans decision that I keep on harping about. So a lot of times, the Supreme Court only wants you to look at the rulings of the case, but not actually look at the background and the information behind the case. I think all of it matters. It all plays into, the influence of opinion in America. So the 1821 Cohens decision, 100%, totally, P.J. Cohen, M.J. Cohen, rightly convicted, but rightly could sue the state of Virginia since their corporation was in Virginia. So where there's a legal right, there's a legal remedy. Blackstone, a man named Blackstone said, where there's a legal right, there's legal remedy. So just think on that for a second. 1890 Hans v. Louisiana decision. 1890, terrible year for everybody, right? 1893, the panic and the depression is 3 years away. No radio, no internet, Reconstruction ended, so segregation had been institutionalized for over a decade. 1890, 130 years ago. The Hans decision fucks it all up. The Chaplinsky-Shink decision is a Plessy Dred Scott decision. They're fucked up. So SCOTUS makes fucked up decisions all the time, right? 2020 Allen v. Cooper, 1999 Alden v. Maine. These are FUBAR decisions. Dred Scott, Plessy, but the Supreme Court don't know what the hell they're doing. So 1890 Hans v. Louisiana decisions. The holding is that U.S. citizens cannot sue their own states using the federal courts. Maybe they left the decision up to the citizens and state governments and state courts. Could citizens sue the state government and state courts? That's up to the states. But then they're going to change it in the Olden decision. So all of a sudden, you know what? Not only do we not have a right to listen to any of the cases, they don't even have a right to bring it up in the state. They have sovereign immunity. So the Olden v. fucking, God, I hate the Olden. 1999 Olden decision is trash. The Hans decision was terrible. 1890, Hans decision was terrible. But the Alden decision just takes it so fucking far. Talk about government overreach. Talk about activist judges. So what happens with the Hans decision? Let's look at the facts of the case. Hans is a citizen of Louisiana. He owned Louisiana state bonds. He was concerned about a recent rule change to the state constitution that would possibly render his bonds invalid. So he invested in Louisiana, bought Louisiana state bonds. He's supposed to be able to get his money back, 5% interest. They needed to raise some money. So, state bonds are usually pretty, but this is Reconstruction and Civil War. A lot of crazy shit's happened. So Hans is going to file a suit against Louisiana in the U.S. District Court, asserting that Louisiana was impairing the obligations, the right to contract. And that's forbidden by Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. You cannot impair contract. The contract was, I bought these state bonds, you're changing the Constitution, you owe me money. And so, once again, Louisiana, we see this over and over again in the Olden case in Maine, and in basically the state gets away with their shit in the Allen v. Cooper. Frederick Allen gets fucked over. North Carolina owes Frederick Allen $100,000 at least $100,000 for his copyright work that they stole, that they plundered, that they pirated. And Hans is going to get fucked over too. So the right of contracts is protected by the U.S. Constitution. That's totally correct. But Justice Joseph Bradley thought otherwise. And they're going to fuck over Hans. So just like in the Allen v. Cooper 2020, Atlantic Kagan 2020 decision, they fucked over Frederick Allen, just like they fucked over Hans. Hans is just a citizen, a humble man from Louisiana, a humble individual citizen from Louisiana who bought state bonds, believed in the state of Louisiana fucked him, and then he sues in federal courts and says, hey, I want my money back. And they say, not only are you not going to get your money back, Hans, but you can't even use the federal courts, and neither can none of the American people. You cannot sue the state government in federal courts because of sovereign immunity. And so what a fucking blow, right? Joseph Bradley's on some dumb shit, fucks Hans over just like Frederick Allen gets fucked over. So Hans v. decision and then the Alden decision, all these other decisions are said to dismiss the Cohens v. Virginia decision. But I think sometimes you can get so muddled with this decision and that decision that you don't even see the forest through the trees. And so when you come across a decision that, just can thread that needle, 1821 Cohen's decision is fantastic. They uphold the state law, they uphold the conviction, and they said that they could hear the case itself. Of course they could hear the case itself, right? This is a dispute between states and citizens, the federal government. This is a wonderful opportunity that they are blowing to be able to solve and resolve disputes between the individual states and the citizens in between the states. So, Jesus Christ. Well, you need a third-party, non-biased, disinterested. So the federal government, a court is needed, a judge in a court is needed to resolve disputes between the states and between the citizens of the states. But the federal government, starting with the Supreme Court, they are saying, oh, not my responsibility. I ain't going to do that. I ain't going to do shit. Atlantic Kagan needs to stop being so goddamn lazy. She needs to read the Constitution before she starts running her goddamn mouth. and, you know, read 1821 Cohens' decision, because it interprets the 11th Amendment 100% accurately, where all of these other cases, it says it's not one side or the other. It says, you know, the 11th Amendment, that you could sue your own state, but it doesn't say that, you know, foreigners, or that you could sue other states. So it just, you know, it's just perfect. The 1821 Cohens decision, fantastic decision. Good job, Supreme Court. Good job, 1821. That's back when, you know, the beer flowed like wine. Anyways, 1821 Cohens decision. The U.S. citizen can sue your own state in, you know, federal court. Yes, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. Peace.